What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Onwards Forward Evolution podcast. Before we get started, I just want to remind you, head to our website, get you some Onwards gear, whether it be a t-shirt, a pillow, some beautiful high-quality artworks, mugs, hats, beanies, sweaters, sweatshirts, you name it, it's there for you. And it's more than just objects and material things that we don't need. Onwards, it's all about the vibration it gives off. Every time you wear a t-shirt or see a poster or put your head on this comfortable pillow, you will always be reminded to always be moving forward, always be striving to improve, to learn, to grow, to chase that ultimate version of yourself. That's what Onwards is all about. We are moving forward together. So make sure you head to our site, get you some merch, support the movement, support the channel, and become part of the Onwards Collective. And with that, let's get into the podcast. Dave, you good? Check, check.
Oh, beautiful, baby.
All righty. Well, gentlemen, welcome. It's good to have you here. Evan
Nice to
and
see
David. Nice to see you too, man.
It's been a while.
Welcome to the first episode of Onwards Forward Evolution, where there's more than 2 guests in person. So that's pretty cool. We're doing it 3 ways this time. It's good to have you, man. Dave, I right before we were talking, I want to come back because you guys were having a nice little conversation on the side talking about, I really like what you were talking about clothing brands and originality, and you were like, wait, we should stop and just kind of bring it back to that. So where were you guys going with that? Because it was a good conversation.
Well, like, my biggest gripe, I guess, with, like, a lot of smaller clothing brands is, like their purpose.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't want to wear something that, like, not everything has to have meaning, but, like if your art or, like, what you make is, like, a product to you, or it doesn't matter at the end of the day, then I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure, like, a lot of people, it's not a big deal. You know, they want to support their friends. They just, you know, oh, it's a cheap shirt, whatever. Like, I need some new clothes, whatever. Like, I'll buy it. But, like, to me, like whatever you're making, I want you to care about it.
Yeah.
So I can care about it.
Totally.
So
Yeah, it's got a different energy to it, and I've
Yeah.
noticed that too. More recently is, I almost had to take a step back because I started almost like attaching a dollar sign to
Yeah.
what I was creating, and like I didn't like that energy connected to it. Because if you're creative and you make clothes in particular, based off your creativity, you should do it because you love doing it, and you love being creative, and you love the whole
100%.
process. And as soon as you start to be like worrying about like the end goal in terms of like making money off of it, it kind of takes away from it, and I didn't really like that. So that's why I've been recently kind of slowing down in terms of making clothes and stuff. I want to focus more on other ways to be creative for the sake of being creative, like this podcast.
yeah, and, like, making money off what you make is important, and I think
Sure.
it's important to properly value what you're making. Like, don't try and I don't like when like people feel like they need to devalue their art for people to like it.
Yeah,
It's like
that's a big one.
if you're making something, even if it's more like crafty, you know, and you're selling it on Etsy,
Mm-hmm.
and people are like, "Oh, this is nice, but not for $50."
Right.
Well, then, you know, it's not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, when I was trying to sell clothing with my art and and prints, I just went with around $30 across
Yeah.
the board for shirts, hoodies, shorts,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of just tried to make it like this is the price, and, like, on some things I'm making a significant amount. You know, the one shirt was spray painted and dyed. You know,
Yeah, pretty cheap.
big profit margin.
Plus, you're like $4 a shirt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was next to nothing. But then the hoodie, it was almost $30 to make. And it's kind of just like I set it at a flat price, so I kind of just forgot about
Yeah,
it.
you set it at a flat price to
Yeah.
make it not about the money.
Yeah,
Make it about the art.
and
And
I
then
knew
people were always
Yeah.
excited about that
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they knew that they weren't going to be charged $60 for a hoodie.
Yeah.
They were going to get $30 worth of really good art.
So, like, I just feel like that simplified things a lot because I was so worried about like productions. I was like, oh, I want to do these pants, but they're going to be so expensive. And then, like,
Right.
then I'm already doing the shirts, and, like, I want to make sure they're, like, kind of cheap. I took all the thinking out of it. It was just $30, and this is what I'm making. I hope you like it. you
Yeah.
know?
What do you think, Dave?
Well, we were talking about also back to like the brands.
Yeah.
We're talking about like brand resonance and how a lot of these new brands, especially like local ones that we were talking about, was it Running Coastal? Basically, so we have an inlet, like most beach. We live in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, which is
it's a beach town.
Beach town, and their logo they had one shirt, one logo. It was just like a picture of like this inlet tower we have and some waves. It was cute, like, and we were saying, so if you're someone who lives here, right, or if you're someone who knows these guys, you're gonna buy that shirt because like, oh, that's cool. I live here. That's like I live there. That's my stuff. Now, what if you move away? That's what Evan said. What if you move away, right? What type of value does that brand give to you, right? Nothing.
If you live in the mountains,
There's no lasting, like impact, or like, I don't want to say like customer, consumer, but like at the end of the day, like, you know, like you're not trying to sell one thing to one person and that's like the end of the road. Like you want to have like someone come back many times to buy what you're creating,
right?
You know, and like if it's just like that one-off sort of novelty like feel, or you know, you're just supporting your friends. Yeah.
I think that the message of the overall brand has to transcend whatever it is that you're actually creating. That's why Onwards is such a powerful statement and mantra, because it can mean so many different things to so many different people. And it's always been bigger than just like, oh, it's a cool bicycle logo or whatever. And even that I find sometimes kind of locks me in a box where it's more than the bicycle, obviously. It's a whole lifestyle around it. But I think the reason people don't buy products, they buy emotions. The reason they buy your shirt is because they feel some type of way towards the overall message and the overall brand. And that's what I think a lot of people don't understand when they want to start a brand or they have a brand. I tell people all the time, forget about the name, forget about the logo first. What do you want to portray? What message are you trying to put out into the world? And I think if you build a foundation around that, that's what has people keep coming back for more and more and more, because they really love what you represent. And the art is almost just like a representation of what the overall message is.
Yeah, and I said, when I think of a brand, right, that has, so at least in America, that has one of the best, identities ever. You think of Harley Davidson, right? It's just insane. When you say Harley Davidson, you have all this list, right, of everything that comes in your mind of what someone who owns a Harley is, right? And that's what you need to be pushing for. Yeah. And there are so many people starting podcasts. We also mentioned podcasts. So many people starting clothing brands because they go on like a Forbes article and it's like top 5 things you should be doing with $1,000 as a 20-year-old to invest in your future and be able to have a side income. Right. And those are the things, right? It's like starting a YouTube, you could even like argue starting a Twitch channel, right? Or like a live streaming channel, because that's something that I do a lot more and I've been getting more into. And as I've been doing that and studying to actually try and become a better Twitch streamer, because a lot of people just kind of do it, and I'm trying to actually study and make it better. Right. Is that you stray away from trying to have really good brand resonance and a really, because you think it's all about the content that you're creating, right? It's like, oh, like I made this really cool shirt. Oh, I had this really cool live stream. Oh, I'm really good at this game. And then you're like, why am I not growing, right? Why am I not selling more shirts after my first shirt when I sold 150, right? You realize that, well, there's nothing for anybody except yourself, right? You're basically doing it for yourself because you're setting yourself up for failure. And I'm really happy we have a good friend, Brody Jackson. He's extremely, extremely critical of the stuff we do. He's a very, very smart guy, very smart. He's very, very lazy in things that are like, like school and like book-wise.
He has very particular like priorities.
Extreme. But he's probably, if not, he might be the most intelligent person in our friend group for sure. He's extremely smart. Okay. And because we always kind of, well, at least I always get caught, I can't really speak for you. I always get caught up with like names and like trying to just come up with things. And he was the kind of the guy who's kind of like, you just need to like just make something, like the name will come. Like, don't worry about it. It will. Like, he's like, all the names you're thinking of right now are dumb and stupid. And he's not wrong, right? For like all these different things. Regardless if it's a clothing company. Yeah. Excuse me, that was nasty. He's just like it's a good sandwich. Thanks for lunch, by the way. It's really good Chipotle chicken sandwich.
Shout out to the cubby hole.
So good. But he's like, you just got to start making stuff and seeing the value in it without putting the value in the name, then making the stuff. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And that's what I'm really trying to do with Twitch too. I was talking to Evan on my Twitch channel. There's so many people who are making a decent part-time living, if not even a full-time living on Twitch now.
Yeah, dude.
Just
Crazy.
and they don't even have maybe they have one or two scenes and they play a game and their overlays aren't even the best. Like they don't look super professional.
Right.
Like the cameras, the lighting's really bad. There's so many like factors that make a really good Twitch stream.
Totally. Yeah, or even podcasts. It's just like the production value.
Yeah, and people just they skip over it because like, oh, I can just do this and like whatever. But like it makes me so frustrated because I see these people who don't have really good quality, and then at least on Twitch, like they're doing pretty well. Right. It's kind of I mean, you can kind of get away with it on Twitch, I guess, if you if you think about it. You can get away with it if you have a really good personality or you're really good at the game.
Yeah.
But when you try and apply this to, let's say, like we were talking about clothing, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Real life like products, stuff like that.
Because people appreciate it when they can see, oh wow, he or she actually really cares about whatever they're putting out into the world, whether it be a Twitch stream, a podcast, clothing, because that's something that we're all kind of in the realm of, is making clothes. And I noticed that people started, the frequency of people buying stuff went up when I was showing, hey, it's me making it. It's me doing it by hand. I'm putting in the
Dude,
time.
that was probably the best thing you could have done.
Yeah.
All those story posts you had, just you behind the scenes making that stuff.
Yeah.
Makes it very personable.
It's more personal, and people appreciate that. So same thing when they see the podcast. Like I put a lot of time, energy, and resource into setting up something that doesn't only look professional, but it's also incredibly easy on my end. Because if you have all these different moving parts, it's a bitch and a half to try to edit all of this together. So I made sure I did my research and put the time and effort and energy in to make sure it's not only high quality and professional for those watching and listening. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for listening and watching. It means so much, but also like for me too. And it's kind of like this symbiotic thing where there's like a give and take. I show that I really care, and you show that you appreciate that by tuning in or buying a shirt or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, when you showed that it was you making these things, you know, you're putting in the effort for what people will be buying. It's like that's the direction we're trying to take right now. Is we started with this guy out in Arizona printing our shirts. You know, it wasn't like, you know, we never went through like anything that was so like detached from like, there was never like, you know, like a custom ink type place. Never even thought about that. But it's like, and you know, that is like a step we were able to kind of skip because a lot of, you know, people that were doing similar things to us before us, that was something that they, you know, had to realize was not the way to go.
For a little bit of background, we make clothes.
Yeah, if you couldn't already tell.
All
the links will be below, by the way, for the people watching.
It.
Yeah, of course, including the Twitch stream. Subscribe.
Good plug.
I got 50 subs right now. We're doing good. We're doing good. Keeping it up.
We were having this dude in Arizona print the shirts, right? And
he seemed like a knowledgeable guy. He had a YouTube channel, and that's why we went with him.
He's a knowledgeable guy. He has a YouTube channel. So again, like you could see what he was doing. Like you could see he would show all of his steps, like, and he would share that knowledge with people. Like he really cares about what he does.
Yeah.
But the thing was, you know, it was kind of far. There was a lot of shipping and cost that was, you know, we were already spending so much on printing stuff. It's like just that extra, you know, punch in the gut of $100 shipping, whatever, crazy.
Yeah, it's like $80 shipping because it's over 40 pounds of like things and
like, and he did an okay job. Like there was always registration errors, which is when
we had a very hard project. Like he can't.
It was like 6 or 7 colors.
It was a lot of colors. It was very intricate.
Yeah,
but
and like,
what's a registration problem?
Yeah, so when you're screen printing, all the colors are on separate screens.
Yes,
and when you're bringing the screen down onto the shirt, you know, let's say you're doing the first color.
Yeah,
and you're doing the second color of the graphic, which is another section of the graphic, and all the lines, you know, whether it's intricate or not, they have to line up and not overlap and not be spread apart where there's a gap where you can see through the ink.
So that's what the registration problem is. Is the artwork and the colors weren't specifically lined to how they should have been?
They weren't super lined up. So, you know, the screens are stencils, and if the stencils aren't lined up, then the graphic looks wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And there were a lot of problems with that, which is, it can be pretty tough to solve those issues. But if you're a professional screen printer and you're marketing yourself
Should
as
be
that,
able to do that.
and you have $15,000 carousels, you know,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, he had like
Yeah.
4 or 6 or even
Yeah.
8
Wow, and the carousels are supposed to make it so you get it
Yeah.
registered perfectly.
that's literally like
Yeah,
that-
100%.
You buy those because it like
Yeah.
it's not an amateur press where you got, you know,
Yeah.
poorly machined parts
like
Right.
ours.
like ours.
Yeah.
But like,
Still works though.
hey, ours, that,
Dude, it's pretty
there's
sick.
no wiggle. I mean,
Pretty
that's
sick.
it's solid.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. So we, you know, getting to that, we started with this guy, right? And then we started printing, and for some background, me and Dave, like we basically, we work on everything like together. We've basically every step of the way, like kind of done things at the same place at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So like our next step, we both started printing at this place that was local. It was a town over. They do a lot of stuff for local businesses, whatever. It was more personal. We would go in, we would talk to them, we would argue about colors.
Oh,
We would argue about colors.
I
a
think
lot.
I'm not kidding. I think we were in Jan's office. Jan, right? That's her name.
Yeah,
Jan.
yeah.
Jan's office for an hour, trying to get her just to pick a color.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
because they had like
Hey man, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but sometimes that could be the hardest part. Whenever I'm designing
Colors.
something for like
Yeah.
the final product, I'm like, fuck, what
But
colors
like,
do I
I
want?
kind of worded that weird. We wanted a specific color.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can
You
explain
can
it. I
explain it.
You
You can
got it.
explain it.
No, real quick side note. Yeah, like one thing about a lot of we were talking about these brands. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing one color, one location,
Mhm.
or like one color, two location. You know, but
Especially if you're making clothes for a business, like a different
yeah.
different thing.
but when
Yeah.
you're trying to do like
A
you know,
clothing
when
brand.
you're saying like clothing brand or surf brand or whatever.
Yeah.
Like one thing I really like about Onwards, like the first thing I noticed was like you care about colors and you care about like the graphic having dimensions.
Yes.
And it's not just like certain things lend themselves really, really, really well to one color.
Yeah.
Like pen and ink drawings,
Mhm.
you know, or like intricate like geometries and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like, you know, it has its limits
Yeah, totally.
to where like at a certain point it's just super boring to just
Yeah.
go with one color or like but yeah, that's one thing I really noticed with Onwards. Like when I first saw it, I was like, wow, like he really cares about color.
Yeah, I definitely do.
And yeah, like we would always be like very, very particular about the colors that we would.
I can say something about that too, because in my first semester at Jefferson, which was technically my sophomore year, because I transferred from California my first year after my freshman year. I had a writing transfer class, and we had to do like or like I don't know if it was the final project, but it might have been some type of final video thing. We had to do this video, like 3-4 minute video about like, I don't remember exactly, but it was about like us and like some idea or something. And what I did is I just talked about like the concept of colors in clothing.
Okay.
And I kind of talked about how, especially if you just go to Target or Walmart or whatever, all the colors of the clothes that you're seeing are extremely unnatural. They're all very synthetic.
Oh, you mean like the dyes that
The
they
actual,
use?
yeah, like the actual
Yeah.
dyes and colors of
Totally.
the clothing. They're very unnatural and synthetic and
Yeah.
man-made.
Yeah.
And that actually has a very everyone knows this type of things, especially like when you go to a city, like there's so many effects on your subconscious
Yes.
that
Yes.
could be possibly negative, because we're nature, we're nature creatures.
Yes.
We're supposed to be very connected with our surroundings and nature. And when you have all these clothes, especially kids clothing, like anytime I ever see any type of kids wearing clothes, or even like in magazines or online like advertisements, they're all very synthetic colors, and there has been studies that show that people who wear these type of synthetic colors or whatever, who don't care about their clothes, have more mental health problems.
Really?
Yeah.
Mental health problems.
Mental health problems.
Is
because it's more likely too that the people who are wearing all these very synthetic, and this could be probably plenty more factors to this, but people who are wearing
Right.
like the synthetic colors, the colors that don't look natural, also just happen to be less well off financially,
Interesting.
which leads to more, and that's probably just a product of fast fashion, right? Being available to a bunch of people. But my main point of all this stuff is that the colors that you choose for things that are extremely important in human lives, like clothing, one of the most important things you could possibly think of, besides like shelter, food, and water,
Yeah.
have a very extreme effect depending on who you are, on your mental health and your attitude toward things. And if you can't find colors or a brand that you can feel connected with and feel good, because I'm sure there's people who don't mind wearing bright blue,
Right.
You know? But I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially like me, who have trouble picking out clothes just because of the colors,
Yeah.
you know, and having a brand that specifically cares about colors like that and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to set yourself apart from like the brand we were talking about. I don't want to keep using their name, but the brand we were talking about the brand we were talking about before.
Mhm. Yeah, dude, there's something very interesting with color. It's Chroma Therapy. You can look it up, and it's a form of healing through color. And the whole idea is like, because we were talking at lunch, like everything in the universe is vibrating at some kind of frequency, light and color being one of those things. So if you look at something and it's a certain vibration of color, it's going to affect, like you said, your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, your mental health. So if you're looking at, that's why like I always hate going to like doctor's offices and hospitals because it's like the blues,
So unnatural.
the blue
The
lights
lighting.
and the white walls, and
yeah.
it's just like there's no color. It's like, ugh.
It's crazy.
So I use so much color because I understand that like there's almost like a healing benefit to it. Like when you look at this sign right above me with these, 12 colors, that was like that's like the original colorway that I would use on most of my designs, 4 years ago in the beginning. And there's so much going on, and people always say like, I feel some type of way when I look at that. I can't
See
really
now,
explain
and
it.
this is interesting because I would actually say that a lot of those colors aren't like natural, right?
Yes.
But because of how many colors there are, right, and like the way that it's formed, it's different, right? It triggers your brain in a different way than looking at a bunch of white walls and bright white lights in a hospital when you're walking down the hallway with white floors.
Right.
Or
You
like
know what
that,
I mean?
like one of my least favorite, like you look at like Walmart or fast fashion clothes, like there's something about like a lot of the blues they use that just they don't look right. Like we see it like a lot of, I think it's probably because of like a lot of the clothes that I'm used to seeing at like surf shops. A lot of the blues are they're muted or soft or,
Like indigo.
or washed out.
Like indigo.
Or like a
Because they're
deep-
probably
a
actually
deep
using indigo.
As I'm wearing a navy blue shirt.
No, not that. That's fine.
This is
honestly.
good. Okay,
But
thank
like,
God. Oh.
I don't know. There's something about also a lot of times I think it's because they're heathered. It's like 50-50, and that rarely looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it can be like heather gray.
Heather's
like
just a way to make the clothing even
cheaper.
Yeah.
So, Dave, I have a question for you to bring it back. When you
Yeah.
said that the people who wear all kinds of unnatural colors, is it specifically the color vibration that it gives off, or is it almost like a chemical thing because the dyes are synthetic and they could be toxic? Is it that, or is it like a color vibration thing that makes people, that has these certain, you could say, negative effects towards people? Because when you were saying it, I was like, oh, if you're wearing this synthetic color, it could be getting into your skin, and maybe that's why it's making you act a certain way.
No. Yes, I don't think it's the actual dye itself.
Okay.
Although if you look at like raw jeans, like they bleed.
Yeah.
That's all like they use natural indigo, at
Yeah.
least for like the higher end fashion companies. So that would be on the other spectrum.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's just the idea, like if when you're in a room, right, and like you have someone looking at really calming pictures and someone looking at really disturbing pictures, right, and then you can like measure their difference in their brains.
Mm-hmm.
When you have someone wearing colors that you just don't ever really see in your environment, and you have someone wearing colors who are more in your environment, I feel like it's more unsettling to be the person wearing all the colors that I don't know. I mean, honestly, I could be speaking for myself here, but like when I'm wearing like just like bright blue, like the blue you're talking about, or like I don't know, red shorts that just I feel red. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm a guy who's always like thinking about exactly what I'm wearing. I just don't feel at ease. I never feel at ease.
Interesting. See, I don't know. I'm weird in that you know me, dude. My entire environment, there's color everywhere. I live inside of a rainbow universe. So like there's color everywhere. So when you said like bright blue, first thing I thought of was I have a this color blue North Face.
It's not homogeneous. It's not like just like one solid like that's like that gets your brain moving.
Yeah.
That's not like you're staring into the abyss of like I don't know, some nasty shade of red.
Also here, this might clear up my point a little bit. Because I was talking about like looking at different things and like measuring how you think.
Yeah.
If you put out this might even be like an interesting study to do, but like
Okay.
if you put out an array of colors that were what we would consider synthetic, right? In the like the fast fashion, I feel like we could all come to a consensus on like what colors would be synthetic,
Yeah.
and then lay out an array of colors that we would consider to be more earthy.
Natural.
And we were to have two people sit down and look at them and describe what they feel like when they do that. I feel like almost every time people would feel more at ease and more less anxious when they look at the less synthetic colors.
Wow. It's amazing how much something as simple as color can influence your entire environment and attitude and mental flavor how you look at life and go about your day.
And now
It's crazy.
this actually is a proven studies that people who are in more cities too, which tend to have, I don't know, I feel like you'd think cities might have more colors, but like the more muted, like Philly's very muted because of all the brick. I feel like, depending on Magic Garden, like that area is a little different, but like where a lot of the people live, it's all like brick houses, old houses,
concrete buildings.
Yeah. Those people have a much worse off. People are much more highly to commit crimes, to have anxiety, to take medication for those things than people who don't live in environments like that. That is a proven study.
Is it proven through is it color is the factor, or is
See,
it
I don't
like,
know. That's where I was taking it with that video I did for my assignment.
Okay.
I was taking it to the point where I think it could be part of just the plain looking at the colors in your environment.
I think so, dude. I think so.
I really do.
Because think about this, like if you were living in a city that is a term for city is concrete jungle, there's no plants, there's very little plants, very little vegetation, very little green, and I'm sure that the color green, it definitely helps with creativity, and it's all these different feelings and emotions that are connected to that color. If that color is taken out of your environment, who knows? You could be more prone to commit crimes or do this or do that, and all these weird behaviors that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were living in like the mountains of Colorado where you're flooded with green. That's interesting, dude. Wow.
I could sorry about
could be wrong, because let's be real, we have no idea what we're talking about. We're not scientists.
Yeah, I was just about to
but
say.
we're just trying to figure it out, because it is an interesting thing.
I was about to say, yeah, I could be completely off. Well, I mean, I have read stuff on what I was talking about,
Right,
but like
right.
those could be wrong too. But it's just something that I think makes sense.
Yeah, totally,
And
bro.
I think people neglect it because it's like clothing is a necessity, right?
I think a lot of times people
neglect it because they just do it all the time. They have it all the time. They don't think about it, really.
Another thing too is like
They don't have the privilege to think about it, like higher fashion houses.
Yeah, but like even if you don't have to spend a lot of money on clothes to like care about what you're wearing.
100%. Yeah.
Like I don't know, like I care about the colors I wear, because a lot of people will buy like when they buy like a jacket or something, like black, because like I can wear it with everything.
Yeah.
I can wear it, or they'll just or shoes, like they'll go with like a white or a gray or a black. Again, you wear it with everything. It's easy. Yeah. And I'm like I get like that kind of like off-white color shoe all the time. But like a lot of times I like to go with something, wacky, and like it does go with things. And like even if it doesn't, like I don't know, it's just like it's fun to like wear color.
Yeah,
it makes you feel good. Like you were saying, like if you're always wearing like white shirt, black pants, like I feel like it's kind of like at least for me, I personally, like when I'm not wearing like something like fun, I guess, just kind of like it drags me down a little bit. Like if I'm wearing like gym shorts and like a t-shirt because I'm just like in the house all day, like I just feel kind of shitty. So like some days I'll like even if I'm not like doing anything, I'll just like wear something like I was, going to class or like going out or whatever, and like I just feel better, like I just feel a little bit more
alive.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about I'm as we're talking about this, I'm realizing like how important color really is, and how much I've definitely taken it for granted, and how like I didn't really understand and realize how important it actually is, because it can literally flavor your entire life and mindset.
100%.
And it's so easy. 100%. It's so easy to just like instead of going with one thing, just go with another and see how you feel about it.
Yeah, and to tie this into what we were like talking about before, to make this like an actual logical point, is with fast fashion, they do all of what we're talking about as negative. They really do. Especially just with the dyeing. They don't give a crap, they just want to get as many clothes with as many colors as they possibly can out to as many stores as possible.
They go with the least offensive and the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
It's like
There you go.
they're trying to appeal to the widest audience, and like I guess like unfortunately, not really. What they do is kind of important. I mean, like they provide like a service, you know, of like, you know, emulating what's popular for very, very cheap.
Yeah.
And like for some people, like that's the good way to go. You know, like that's, and you know, I'm not trying to like, you know, completely put it down, whatever, but like,
It's tricky because it's literally the fashion industry is one of the most wasteful
yeah,
industries there is, and also harmful in terms of all the chemicals used.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always struggled with. And I know you too, Dave. I want you to talk about it in a second. Like, being in that industry and wanting to make clothes, but also understanding how wasteful it is and how
the amount of water that goes into making
yeah,
one
man.
t-shirt.
That's why
And I was just about to say too, an interesting fact, and I could be wrong, so make sure you fact check this, but I'm
Please.
pretty sure it's like Americans throw away on average, it's somewhere between 50 to 100, maybe a little less, maybe a little more pounds of clothes every year.
that's crazy. Well,
Every single year, and this isn't even recycling. This is just throwing away from
Throwing it away.
landfill, throwing it away.
not
It's
even like
anywhere.
Always
donating?
gotta
No.
donate,
It's literally throwing it
upcycle.
away. It's literally there's like oh, you know, your underwear, like some shorts that have a hole in it, you throw them away. Right? It could be. I'm pretty sure it's 50 to 100 pounds. Could be a little less. Could be a little more.
I don't doubt
But it's
it.
a ridiculous. And obviously, not everyone is doing that. But
Right.
all the people adding up to the population we have just in America
Yeah.
is that much, and that's a phenomenal amount of textiles that's just being thrown in the landfills
Yeah.
that most likely won't break down because a lot of them are 50/50s, heathers, or
Yeah.
partly synthetic or artificial.
So, I have
It's crazy.
That
I
is.
have
It's crazy.
a cousin. We're not like blood related, but you know, cousin for
I know what you mean.
semantics, whatever. And she goes to the same school as me, and like, Zoe,
Yeah.
So before school, like I hadn't seen her in like 10 years, whatever. So I knew nothing about her like interests or pursuits, whatever.
Right.
And she's the I forget what it's called, like a chair or whatever of sustainability at my school.
Oh, cool.
She's
Chairman?
super, yeah,
Chairwoman?
like,
Chairwoman?
yeah, like super involved with that sort of thing, trying to just be more sustainable on campus in the sense of like, I guess using less water and like getting rid of like a lot of single-use plastics, not just straws. We're not just talking about straws here, like
Right.
everything. And like I remember when I was in Seattle last summer, she lives in Canada but has family in Seattle.
Yeah.
And we were talking at dinner, and she was asking me about like my clothing and stuff, and she gets very, very heated and passionate about this.
You
sort of thing.
never told me about this.
No?
No.
So she gets very, very passionate about this stuff, right? And yeah, when she found out that I was using a 50/50, half polyester hoodie blank, oh, she was pissed. She was like,
Yeah, polyester does not break down.
yeah.
No.
She was like, every time you wash that, microplastics are getting into the water. I'm like,
Polyester is literally
I know.
plastic.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't like happy about it, but after that, like I was like, she's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to use like organic or like recycled cotton like in the near future. For right now, like we're gonna use what we have.
Yeah, you're in the learning phases
yeah.
right now.
You got to learn the rules before you break the
Yeah.
rules.
Can't
I love that.
when we have a little bit more of a budget, and
Yeah.
like we
And an
get
understanding. We
better
we
materials.
can't sell ourselves, or we can't we need an understand. We need to do
And-
more of it.
That's not to say like what we're using isn't good, but it's like
Yeah, it's
you
not
know.
like we're doing it unconsciously of the environment.
Yeah.
But it's like we just don't have the tools.
once we can like cut and sew our own
Yeah.
blanks. Yeah.
It's a lot, man. It's
Yeah.
a lot of money, energy, and resource. So, but it is good that you have that awareness of like, okay, I'm doing this now, but I know that this isn't permanent. I'm gonna do my best to be as sustainable as I can and
Yeah.
use what I can. That's why I've stepped away from screen printing for right now, and I'm doing the heat.
Yeah, because
transfers.
they're all petroleum based products.
Well, just
it's
the amount
it's
of
messing it
the
up.
amount of water I have to use. It's just like kind of bums me out. That's when I was taking
Yeah,
the
it's a
screen
lot of
printing
water.
class at Jefferson. It was like, fuck, like we're using so much water right
Well,
That's
now.
for sure. Yeah.
We were trying to work on when we dye shirts or anything, we try and use as little water as possible. which is it can be hard when you want to do a dye bath instead of applying the dyes directly.
Right.
The one day I was dyeing shirts was in a thunderstorm. That was saving me some water.
There you
but
go.
It was also.
Why did you do that? That's
that was
pretty
scary
awesome.
as hell. That was when we were out by the pool, and it was a torrential downpour. Like the storm was right overhead.
Were we just in the shed? I don't know. What were you dyeing?
The purple tees, the Ecto.
Oh yeah. I remember.
And,
yeah, and you were throwing them on the chair, and they were getting dirt all on them from the rain.
They're splashing up.
Yeah.
But I mean,
those shirts were pretty cool.
yeah, I really like the way they turned out. I put a lot of thought into those. But we've been trying to figure out ways to, cut back on our water usage with dyeing shirts. We're trying to figure out a way right now to recycle basically the same 2 gallons or so of water and do like 20, 30 shirts.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? My uncle Billy actually talked to me about this when I was telling him about, and we'll get into this, what I'm thinking about with all the natural dye stuff. He told me, well, instead of doing that, why don't you just think about taking it, recycling that water, and then he said use, I don't know if this is the right word to use, but he said using osmosis, right, to separate the particles that have the dye in them from the water that, or from the water particles to dye particles, to be able to separate those, and then you can just reuse that water that didn't have the dye in it.
Yeah, but how much does a reverse osmosis machine cost?
Who knows? I don't know.
That's awesome. You could definitely do that, I feel like.
I'm like, that's not a crazy idea.
No.
We've looked into a couple things.
There's got to be people already doing that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure, but
there's got to be.
But
it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah,
there needs to be more people. And that's why I like that we're passionate. All of us are passionate about stuff like this. And it's funny because the more and more I can. So I'm actually a fashion merchandising management major at Jefferson, and the more and more I figure that out, I realize I'm like, look, I might not even want to be I don't even know if I want to work in the fashion industry.
Right.
I'm very happy, one, that it's a business degree. That's very important for me, so I can have that. And 2, so I can get an MBA if I want to, because I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
And 2, just to have this introduction to the fashion industry, because I think this might be the most quintessential industry that just takes everything away from trying to have a sustainable earth. And this might be one of the most important industries, if not the most important industry, that things need to change in. And even though if we think that, all these really smart, rich people are going to innovate something and it's going to happen, we still need all the people like us trying to come up with ideas, because who knows what will happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have you ever heard of Streptomyces pseudocolum?
No.
Streptomyces pseudocolum is a kind of bacterial fungus or mold that, they're using it to dye fabrics. It's a biological way to dye fabric. So basically the idea is, I saw a TED Talk on it. It was very interesting because this lady was talking about everything that we've been talking about the last 10 minutes or so. Of sustainable, using better resources, not really using so much water, using chemicals that aren't harmful. And it turns out it's crazy how many answers you can find towards simple problems you can find in nature. So this strain of bacteria or fungus or mold, Streptomyces pseudocolum, depending on the environment that it, grows in, like the level of humidity and the temperature will depend on the color that it produces. And it's really fucking interesting, where it's these beautiful, deep purples and indigos all come from just this bacteria that grows. And
it's
it's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How do they actually how does it go from bacteria to color on a shirt?
I think what they do is they take the little petri dish and they get the colony going.
Yeah.
And then I think they put it in some kind of maybe a sterilized plastic container or something, and then they just kind of let the colony almost grow on the clothing itself. And as it grows,
that's pretty cool,
and colonizes, it just leaves behind a trail of color.
Huh. Does the bacteria ever die?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe
it
there's I don't fully understand it. I got to go back and refresh.
After you
wash the shirt or whatever. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And if the color stays, that's really crazy.
It's amazing, right?
It is amazing.
Yeah, this lady was talking about it. If you're listening, go check out that TED Talk. I forget exactly what it's called. I'll link it. I'll try to link it below, and also throw some visual aids so you can see. But it's incredible. Or there's different mushroom strains that can eat plastic and shit. It's fucking crazy.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, there's a kind of because that's the interesting thing about mushrooms, dude. And it's funny that almost every podcast you can always bring the conversation back to some kind of mushroom or psychedelic plant. Where I don't know if this strain in particular is a psychedelic one, but it is a form of mushroom fungus that one of the byproducts it does is it breaks down some kind of chemical that exists in all plastics. So if you just start dumping these colonies of mushrooms in landfills or whatever, the ocean is the biggest one. Like, how are you supposed to get mushrooms to grow in the ocean? I'm not really sure, but it's amazing, dude. It really is, and that's kind of where we have to lead towards in the future. I think we're on our way there.
I think we're on our way, but I don't think we're doing it
fast enough.
No,
well,
all the old
I
structures.
had one environmentally sustainable class so far, and I'm almost done with my degree. And it was interesting because all we really did was an introduction.
Yeah, I love how you did air quotes when you said environmentally sustainable.
All we did was really look at other people who invented things that were just inspired by nature, which is cool. But how do you get there? You know what I mean? How do you get there?
Right.
That's the big question. And there should be more people. There should be so many more people, even if you're working an office job, that should just be constantly thinking about how do we get to that point where we can replicate nature to improve our efficiency, which is almost in every case when you replicate nature, you improve the efficiency. The what is it? The Superjet train in Japan.
Dude, you just took that right out of my brain. Yep.
Yeah.
Can I explain real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So basically what they did in Japan is they took this, again, kind of fungus, some kind of fungus spore, and they put it, you know how you put rats in like a maze? They created a maze, and the maze was a replica of the Japanese subway system. I think it was in Tokyo or somewhere. And basically what they did was they let this fungus, they left a source of nutrient for them to eat. And so what they did was, and Paul Stamets talks about this on Joe Rogan, and it blew his mind, where they have this maze of the subway system. They let this fungus kind of go and grow and colonize. And first what it did was it was very exploratory, or it just kind of went around randomly, and then it brought itself back, and then it basically reorganized the entire subway system of this city in Japan to be more efficient. And that's literally what you're saying. It's like nature knows already how to be more efficient. If we can find a way to like replicate that, we can really start making some moves.
Yeah, like what's I might be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure like what's the most efficient shape in nature? It's the hexagon. When you think of beehives
I don't know.
and stuff like that.
Any kind of sacred geometry.
Oh no.
Strong is it strongest?
Not only I would say like efficient in the fact that the way you can so if you pack a bunch of circles together, in that pattern, it's wasted space because there's those like curved. I don't know what the word for that is. It's like the curved
hexagon
between.
Yeah.
It's efficient because it uses up all of what's the word? It tessellates the plane. There's a word for that in geometry, but it can cover the surface like perfectly, and any way you rotate it, all that.
Yeah, it says not many people know this, but if you want something to hold a lot of weight, pick a hexagon. So it has to do with the patterns. They are prevalent in nature due to their efficiency. That's amazing. So yeah, if you think of beehives and
what in our world is built in hexagons?
Like a lot of things probably use that.
Before now, probably nothing.
Yeah, right.
Well, a lot of things
like man-made. I mean,
use triangles, because
always,
and it's the same.
Well, if you think about it, triangles are halfway. They're halfway to a hexagon.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
Well, yeah.
I'm gonna make 3 and
6. I'm not stupid, right? Hexagon 6, right? Okay, I'm not stupid. All right.
No, I'm saying as far as like the shape goes, like how many triangles you can fit in a hexagon. It's like
how many triangles could you? Oh yeah, how many? You can fit 2, right?
Well,
I know you fit 3.
You could.
You're talking about just drawing. Well, I'm talking about like because they can't overlap.
Yeah.
Could you even fit 2 without overlapping?
Well, it depends on the shape of the triangle and if it's
I don't think you could. I don't think you could.
What do you mean?
I don't think
No. With the top of the triangle in the center.
What's the question? Let me see if I can find an answer.
Oh yeah. Okay. I for some reason I was literally
6.
thinking I was
1,
not
2,
thinking
3,
like
4,
normal
6.
math in elementary school for some reason.
Yeah. You were putting the triangle across the whole.
Yeah,
house.
that's how I was thinking about it.
But,
From point to point for some reason. I don't know. Don't worry about it.
But it's like, I mean, a lot about like engineering we take directly from nature.
Yeah.
You know? Like you see the way a beehive is built, and you got to think that's for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not random.
Well, this is why
like that.
I really wish we'd focus more on stuff like that in college, regardless of your
Seriously.
major.
You were telling me about that class where it was like
biology for design. I'm pretty sure
biology for design is exactly that. Is is using.
But again, all we did was took a whole semester just to look at what other people really did.
Yeah.
We never really understood. We looked at graphs and it's like, oh, how is this more efficient?
I feel
Like we never really understood how to get there, and because we weren't understanding that process, like that's the process that everyone coming out of a higher education should understand, because that's what everyone needs. Because who knows, maybe someone in a cubicle can use nature to make their cubicle office job much better and much for everybody.
Your
Who
space
knows?
is more productive if you have a certain amount of plants. Too little plants and you're less productive. Too many plants, less productive. Somewhere right in the middle, you're more productive.
Yeah. I think I got a good space in my office. I got a good amount of plants. Perfect amount.
It comes from that like color is important for your mood. It's like you need to have that green. It's natural as opposed to, you know, like white, gray, like yellowed carpet.
Yeah.
And
blue xenon lights.
Blue lights. It's like
that's not to cut you off, but I got these covers.
I just noticed that.
They're covers to make the light a little warmer.
Yeah.
These xenon lights, and it helps. And
cool.
even the ring light, I have it a little orange.
It's
tungsten.
It's better.
Tungsten lighting.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, even these guys. Like I try to keep it warm and orange because it definitely makes. Like I remember I had a friend over once, and she was like, "My head hurts." Like all of a sudden she came down here, and because of those lights, she's like, "My head hurts," and I was like, "Oh shit!" So bought the covers for him.
When it became harder to find like the incandescent bulbs at the store, because I guess they stopped making them or whatever, there was some reason for that. You know, we put a lot of those like bright white LEDs in my house, and like from the outside it looked so bizarre. It looked like some kind of like alien invasion. It was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
So they started, I guess, making more natural looking LEDs, but for a while we were using those white ones.
Well, now you have the option to change. Like they'll make the bulbs where you can change.
You get the ones where you can change the color, but
like the ones on my shed, I can change those to tungsten.
It just looks so like unnatural, and it was like really throwing me off. And I don't know.
I wanted to go back to you guys were talking about nature and shapes, and I keep thinking of like sacred geometry and how like the phi ratio and all these Fibonacci.
Yeah, I watched a good video with you.
Yeah, if you're listening, there's a channel on YouTube called Spirit Science. Check it out. It's this animated series that makes it a lot of fun and easy to grasp the information. And basically, he has two videos. One of them is called The Flower of Life, where it's like an introduction to sacred geometry and how it's found all over nature. And
it's pretty crazy.
Ancient civilizations throughout the entire world for thousands of years. And then there's another video called The Math of God that kind of expands on that. And it'll blow your mind if you watch these two videos, Flower of Life and the Math of God by Spirit Science. And I wanted to tie it into computer code because, like, if all of these things are the first language of the universe is geometry and mathematics. So if you can find, even in like triangles and geometry, you can find all of the harmonics in all the keyboards of the world, and you can find the proportions and the vibrations of light and all these different kinds of frequencies, and it kind of ties into computer code where they have found like sacred geometry and like superstring is that what they're called, superstring equations, or some kind of super equation where it's all this math, but when they break it down, there's like sacred geometry that's found in that. Have you ever had?
Well, there's rhythm in everything that's ever been created in this universe. And I feel like geometry is just mathematical rhythm, right? It's just numbers that rhythmically make sense, right? Yeah. So, I mean, maybe Evan knows a little bit more about this in computer code, but there's 100% rhythm in computer code. So I would not be surprised if you found, a bunch of the sacred geometry in computer code. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Like I'm definitely not as like right now I'm working on, learning about like syntax, making sure I know like how to use this or that language, whatever. And like, but
are you talking more? Yeah, you're thinking he's talking more about like those and ones, like the actual hard coding of stuff,
like machine code.
Yeah, is that what you're trying to get at? Because there's a big difference. There's a big difference in binary coding.
Is there?
And syntactical coding.
So I don't understand how computers work
difference.
Well enough to be confident in my answer.
So there are scripting languages, programming languages, whatever.
Okay.
And that's in English.
Yeah.
But it's not like, like a lot of the English that there's obviously stuff that's like different, and how do I explain it? Like basically, it's all English word. You're not dealing with like binary, whatever, and you're using like a particular. Someone says that like this, between these two curly braces, you know, this has to happen, whatever. So, you know, it's easy to learn in that sense, but like when you need to like learn all the like ins and outs of a specific language, like that's one thing. But like if you're talking about like the way like computers interpret
actually
like
make
information.
information.
I think what more ties into what you're talking about is like the electrical signals that make a computer do what it does. And the way you at a higher level, so there's low level and high level programming. So high level programming is when it's more powerful, so you kind of have like control over more and it's easier.
Yeah.
And when you go down low level, you know, you're talking about like machine code. It's like you're dealing with like individual bits, and like it's a lot less powerful, but you have control over very much smaller things, and you're more concerned with like individual like you know, like a 0 is off and 1 is on.
Okay.
And it's like that's what you're talking about is like is rhythmic, and it's did you have something to add?
I was just saying the people who understand the low level is the people who are making the money and making the innovations in technology, because that's what you need to know to be able to actually build a computer system.
Yeah.
Build a CPU. You need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
Without that, the high but it's very important to also know as you put it, the high level coding, because that's what's accessible to the most amount of people, and there is no reason people shouldn't be coding, in my opinion, in the future. But the rhythmic stuff that you're trying to get at definitely falls, I would agree with you saying, more in the base, like more like the way the low level works, the machine coding works with the electric signaling.
Yeah, like the signal is on or the signal is off.
Yeah,
and the way,
and it's very geometric.
Yeah, and the way you give or create these instructions is through the high level code.
Yeah,
but when you understand that at that like molecular, so to speak, level, like the smallest, the parts, those parts of it is like I would like to understand that more. I took I had to, for my major, take an assembly programming class, and that's what that is low level stuff, and it's not used very much, but it is really, really interesting. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. You wouldn't think it would be. Like it seems like something that's kind of boring, but you know, like I just want to code. Like I just want to, you know, make little applets or whatever.
I want to make a Pong game.
Yeah. Which,
okay, gotcha.
But you can do that. Like you can make, you know, you can make a chess game with low level code. It's just a little bit more frustrating, you know, because the syntax is a little like the.
So I never got to that because I only did CS for 1 year.
It's a little further away from English.
But what is there a low level coding language specifically for machine coding? That's assembly, right? Wait, it's assembly, right? That's the language, right?
Yeah, I'm really bad with terminology and semantics like that. So I don't want to say, you know, the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's your low level code.
It's amazing, man, like how fast computers are evolving, and they're getting faster and faster and smarter and smarter.
And Elon Musk's brain chip that's coming very soon.
That freaks me out. I'm not getting that shit. Someone could hack you, bro.
It's exponential.
Yeah.
There's this curve. I forget his name. There's this guy. He predicted the curve matches almost perfectly. So he was showing
of what technology?
Yeah,
and the improvement.
Technology. Yeah. So he, you know, I really wish I had this on hand. But like, if you look at, let's say, like,
see if I can find it. But keep
like
going.
10 or 15 years down the line, where he's saying like technology will be. So like, you know, obviously it's just points on a graph connected, but he attributes certain advancements with each part along the way. Yeah. And he's like, you know, up here you got like machine learning and then like true AI and stuff, and it's not that far down the line, and he was right about the whole thing.
Ray Kurzweil? Steve Jobs?
No.
Okay. Keep going though. Sorry.
He was a mathematician.
Okay.
I believe. And he was spot on
Yeah.
up to this point. I mean that if
when you use logic and I guess like just to kind of tie to what we were saying before, like rhythmic, just rhythmic statements, rhythmic mathematics or whatever.
many things can be proved through math
many
that we
things-
cannot observe.
Yeah. And I was gonna bring up Hans Rosling and his prediction. He had a great TED talk. It was like 2007 before he passed away. He talked about how China and India are going to be the economic powerhouses by far by 2040. He said on his 100th birthday, July 22nd, 2040. And him and I think it was his daughter. I think it's his daughter developed a really awesome like graphing program that like it's really easy to like get visuals for stuff and like see things throughout the years, and it looks really great. It's very visually engaging, and like it's crazy to see. And I'm sure he's going to be right because China's catching up. Whoever thought China was going to overthrow America's GDP, right? And it goes into great detail about the history and like why it's going to happen. But my main point is like, through mathematics and things that make sense, like logical mathematical statements, and using, like I like the word rhythm. I think rhythm is a good word for predicting things, especially in mathematics. And using that like that rhythmic history and syntax, he can get he seems like he's predicting something very well. And in July 22nd, 2040, I'm very excited to see what the GDPs are compared to hit a graph that he made in 2007.
Interesting.
And I would not be surprised if he was extremely, extremely close. And he's been predicting stuff since like the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
maybe even before that.
have you seen the original drawings of like a mathematical prediction of what a black hole would look like visualized by a sketch compared to
Look that up.
Yeah.
compared to our now radio frequencies turned into a visual image? I mean,
Is it spot on?
spot on. It's crazy.
Say that again, but slower.
Okay, so in the 70s,
Is it
and
this?
then there's a couple drawings.
Okay.
And then if you wanna look up
Wait, so
Our-
what are we
our-
looking at? The drawings of what?
a black hole based on
So, wait.
mathematical predictions.
So how? What's the visuals that are mathematical?
This looks right. It's just a bunch of dots, like a bunch of white dots.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
I'll
another.
throw it up for the
that's
video.
that's
version.
like hand
Okay.
sketched, and
So how do you get there? So it's frequencies? Is that what you said?
Well, so those drawings were made based on just math, and I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure
Okay.
how, but just math.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't
And then-
understand that shit.
When we were able to transmit,
when
we were able to
when did that happen?
70s and also
Okay.
maybe even a little earlier, and then like up until recently. Have you ever seen like the progression of like our images of Pluto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you go from like this little speck to like a little bit bigger of a speck, and this time it's a bit,
It's like 8
different
bit,
of a color.
16
Yeah.
bit.
It's like a little. It looks like a square because it's so pixelated.
Yeah.
It's so, and then at
Minecraft.
a certain point, and then at a certain point you get to the New Horizons image, and it's beautiful because
crystal
it's
clear.
from right there, and you see the advancement of technology across all the fact that we're able to the imaging, the spacecraft, and it's just the convergence of all that. It's
Mhm.
like the math and science and everything that got us to that point of the cameras that were able to take those images, the rocket that got the craft into space, the
Right.
craft itself that was able to withstand all of that solar radiation and all
Yeah.
and
The signal strength to
yeah.
get those pictures back to Earth.
and make those flybys of like multiple planets and then Pluto. That's at, I don't know if people realize how far Pluto is from us. Like, yeah, if you want to,
How far is Pluto from Earth?
Steer doesn't know.
really far. Its year is basically the last time.
You ready for this? 3.23 billion miles.
Yeah, exactly. It's really far. And it's
Billion,
years,
wow.
its year is like hundreds of Earth years long. Well, by hundreds I mean like 200.
Yeah.
But like that's still really, really long. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
like-
for 1 year?
yeah, just
Wow.
I mean, you might want to fact check me, but just
Right.
just the fact that that's
Well, it makes
possible.
sense because
And
how far away our sun is 93 million miles. If that's 3.23 billion, of course it's going to take way longer for it to rotate
Yeah.
the sun. If that's how you're basing a year, yeah.
the reason we thought it was a planet at first is because it was a big rock, and it was in our
And it was
vicinity.
orbiting.
Yeah, and we didn't realize how many more like it there were. That's why it was demoted. It's a Kuiper Belt object, and it's like if we were to classify Pluto, we would probably have to classify upwards of 20 other objects.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah.
If we wanted to,
What's the technical term? It's like a celestial giant or something like that?
It's a dwarf planet.
Dwarf, okay.
It's a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt.
Okay.
And that's towards the outer reaches of our solar system. And but yeah, just that convergence of everything that led to that being possible. It's the same thing with like, we had this math that told us what this thing that we could not observe and we weren't even sure were real. Einstein predicted them with relativity, special relativity, I think, right? Or special
Sounds
relativity.
right.
It's either that or general, but and like just the fact that we're able to, through visualizing radio frequencies, to get that.
Yeah.
Exactly what we predicted.
Okay, so explain to me how you visualize a radio frequency of a planet or a black hole.
So
is it through light?
Light is radiation.
Yes.
And radiation,
Is
radio waves.
Yeah, okay.
Are radiation. So so you're doing it in the way you image something in visual light is, you have a chip in a camera, or there's a variety of like older cameras, it's a big photo plate, but now we have, like a DSLR.
Yeah.
What's that little chip called in the back of the camera?
You mean the SD card?
No, you pop the lens off and there's that little.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Shit.
Yeah, like this camera's mirrorless, so it probably has one of those in there.
So, like that's how you
it absorbs the
image
light.
visual light.
Yeah.
So, if you want to image like radio frequencies, there's ways to do that I'm not, well versed on,
right.
But they do it. So a lot of people, you get these criticisms where it's like, oh, that photo of a nebula, it's not a real photo. Well, it is a real photo. You just can't see it like that.
Right.
So they have to visualize it a certain way so you can perceive it.
Yeah.
Like this thing is, the pillars of creation, what are they, like 30 light years across or something like that? I mean,
I don't know.
Huge. And a lot of it is infrared, you have to image these sort of things in a certain way so they look like something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of stuff out there we can't see.
Yeah.
We can't see because our eyes can't perceive it, but we have the equipment that can.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's not real in the same way that like you can't see the radio frequencies that give you cable television until they're interpreted and put on your screen.
But they're still real.
It's still real.
Even though you can't see them.
So people will be like, "Oh, that's just CGI. Oh, it's not. It's false."
It's just because
color.
we're all big babies who don't know much.
Well, yeah,
we
want to.
like we don't know anything really.
Yeah,
we want to make ourselves feel more comfortable about the things we don't
because
know.
we're rational beings. We need to have rationale
to
behind
observe
something
directly.
Exactly.
So when we got these photos, they're not. When we got these images of a black hole, they got a ton of criticism.
That photo was crazy.
For no reason. I mean, I don't know if you showed him the one with it's just a little orange Cheerio, but that's the image we have.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know that one. Yeah.
And just the fact that
Cheerio.
That's possible, and we just recently proved that gravity exists.
Yeah, they found gravity waves.
Yeah, it sounds dumb, but gravity was, and theory doesn't mean what a lot of people think it means. Theory,
pull this mic just a little closer. You're good.
Yeah, a scientific theory is like proven.
Yeah,
it's a little different from like a law, but it's not a.
No one denies gravity.
Yeah,
right. That'd be a crazy thing to say.
It's not like a scientific theory is different, and it's like, but we were just able to prove that like gravity exists, like this like fabric of reality,
right? As
based
a wave.
on because Earth is getting hit by these waves all the time.
Yeah,
these fluctuations in space, whatever. And we were able to pick that up by just shooting two giant lasers in opposite directions. And we saw them move a little bit.
Yeah, miles and miles and miles
apart.
apart.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like two lasers underground, and they're miles and miles apart, and that's how they can measure the gravity waves.
A couple months later, they did it again. So we went, all of humanity up until that point without being able to prove that this, things fall for that reason.
It's crazy, man. It makes me excited for the future in terms of other things that they're figuring out in terms of science and technology. And it just makes me think of, like, virtual reality is one of the things that freaks me out, because we're talking about the evolution of computers and how fast they're getting, how smart they're getting from 40 years ago to when Pong was, like, the revolutionary thing. But nowadays, you throw in an Oculus headset. Have you guys ever done virtual reality?
Yeah.
I haven't had the privilege.
Okay, well, after we record, we can do it.
Hey, I have
some upstairs.
Love it.
And it's going to change your entire universe, David.
I'm very excited. I've never ever once done it.
It's so freaky, man, because not only is it like, oh, cool, I'm in these virtual worlds and everywhere you look, but the physics of the games are spot on. And the craziest thing about all that is when you really break it down to simple terms, it's just ones and zeros firing. But you're in these worlds, and it's incredibly immersive, and your brain's going crazy, and it just then you start thinking of, like, well, because one of the things, I don't necessarily believe or deny that we live in a simulation, but when I got my virtual reality headset, the next day, being in all these different universes, being in the Star Wars universe, being inside of a giant coloring book, being in National Geographic, going to Antarctica, being in all these different universes all of a sudden, and then the next morning, just kind of sitting at my desk looking at my phone, things just looked a little off. It just looked weirder than normal. And in that moment, I was like, oh, this reality could just be another one of those weird Oculus universes. And then it kind of freaked me out and put me in a rabbit hole.
It's just got to, we were talking about at lunch, like the whole, like, notion, like the definition of a universe.
Yeah.
Right. And how a lot of the times now, most top scientists are now saying we should just use universe to define everything that we can read in our technology, that we can see in our power. But there are other universes out there, and the multiverse it's most likely not like another dimension, like above us or right next to us. It's most likely just,
but that's there
too. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
There, yeah.
For sure. But the multiverse idea, the universe idea is like, here's our universe. This is all we can measure. But there's other universes over here. We just can't see them.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like the same thing with, yeah, you can go.
No, I was just going to say,
I'm
like,
done. I don't know what I was going to say.
We understand so little about, like, our reality, like our existence. Like, there's only, there's certain things that, we just can't comprehend, and we really try to.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't even make sense to, like, bother. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to fill in the blanks about, just to comfort yourself. I'm not saying, like, don't question things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the opposite of what I mean. But, like, like Carl Sagan's explanation, he's probably not the first to use this example.
Mm-hmm.
He's a famous astronomer.
Yes.
And, like, personality. But he explains it in that if you're a 2D being, you're flat.
Yeah. And
there's a 3D object right next to you.
Yeah.
You'll only see its 2D surface. So you'll
shit.
If you're a pyramid, if you're a triangle,
yeah.
There's a cube here. You're a little triangle guy, right? And you're flat. This cube
only looks like a square.
Is a square to you.
Whoa.
So and we think of, like, oh, like, I can look up, like, what's more up than up, but it's like you can't perceive that.
Yeah,
you perceive in the 3D.
That makes total sense.
So there's fourth dimensional structures, beings, whatever that we see in 3D or just don't see at all.
Yeah.
Like, we can't perceive them because, like,
I think I remember watching that video, and then I got really angry.
Yeah,
I got really angry.
Frustrating.
I got really angry because I wish I could be a fourth dimensional being. I wish I could be a fifth dimension. I wish I could see that stuff.
Well, I got good news for you. I think that those higher dimensions, they can be states of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And that's where that whole idea comes from, is different dimensions.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry to interrupt you, but scientists just, like, don't know much about consciousness.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's like, it's there.
It's there. It's really hard to...
Like, what is it? You can't really...
It's hard, but me being someone, and again, bringing it back to psychedelics, and it seems like it's a recurring theme every episode, but it's just so amazing how much they've shaped culture and our conscious states of consciousness, where I would argue that when you are on a psychedelic, you are tuned into these higher states of consciousness, which could be argued as higher dimensions, and there's this whole... new age idea of we're shifting into the 5D, the fifth dimension, which is a state of consciousness where more people are waking up and they're becoming more compassionate and air quotes woke, and they want to help the earth and be like a global civilization. That's like this whole idea of like fifth dimensional consciousness or Christ consciousness, where the idea is that if Jesus as a guy isn't going to come back, it's like his consciousness, his state, Christ consciousness is like the return of Jesus, where as a collective we shift into this higher state of being, living, and acting in the world, and that's like the real return of Christ.
Talked a lot about that in
my a state of consciousness.
My honors course.
Did you really?
Yeah,
that's
a lot
awesome.
about the idea of what does it mean to be a Christian, right? And what does it mean to, and what most of it boiled down to. By the way, went to a Christian school. I definitely would say I am non-religious, but I went to a Christian school for my first year of college, and it was a phenomenal experience educationally, and I was in their honors programs through specific universities. Shout out to all the amazing teachers and students there. It's a great place. And we talked when we were reading especially the Old Testament. We were talking a lot about what it means to be a Christ follower, and what it means to embody. It's like embody Christianity, and a lot of it came down to it's personal faith, right? Is that religion is faith, therefore your relationship with God is personal, right? So you have no right to tell anyone anything else about what you believe religiously.
Right.
Again, and a lot of the times we argue like, oh, old Christians, those conservative Christians are very strict. Like, I don't know, man, but like these Christians I was talking to at my school were very reasonable, right? And they were it feels like they were just trying to get to things that you try to get to just through Christianity, and that's how they explain it. But the idea of Christ consciousness is that like we had a whole class that we talked about, do we think Jesus is going to return? And everyone said no, we don't think so. This is what I was more of a listener for that class, because again that's more for my fellow colleagues that were avid Christians to talk about, and they basically I would say the general consensus was we just need to, by studying, the sacred scripture and other phenomenal, texts or whatever that revolve around Jesus, just need to try and be more like him. I don't think they ever use the word conscious, but there's a book called like Christ Conscious, right? Christ.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I remember
there's
seeing
definitely
that.
a song by Joey. There's a song by Joey Badass.
Yeah, you might have. Yeah. Joey Badass is great.
Or was it?
Great guy.
I also showed you that one that's about
great rapper.
About psychedelics, about mushrooms.
Oh yeah, the mushroom. I'm getting that for Christmas.
Sacred Mushroom in the Cross.
John Marco Allegro. I'm getting that for Christmas. I'm getting Jordan Peterson's 12 Anecdotes to Chaos, 12 Rules for Life, Anecdotes to Chaos. I'm very excited to read that book.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Because
that's very controversial.
A lot of people try and.
Well, again, dude, it's insane.
I don't know as much about it. I will. Explain a little bit more to me.
It's so interesting how much these compounds, specifically psychedelic mushrooms, have shaped our entire culture and also most of the world's religions, including other psychedelics. So I'll come back to that, but the idea basically is that Jesus was a mushroom. Now I know people just got triggered hearing me say that, but hear me out. There's a guy, his name is John Marco Allegro, and what he did was he helped decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he basically spent not his whole life, but the majority of his life deciphering these religious texts, these ancient texts, and studying etymology of words and where words come from. And basically what he concluded, and he wrote a whole book about it, and his book was actually bought out by the Roman Church. What is it called again? The Vatican. The Vatican bought out his book and made sure that to hide it. Yeah. That's how you know he might be onto some shit. Where the Vatican's like, hey,
what's
bro.
the name of this book? That's the book you just said.
The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross.
Mushroom and the Cross. Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
So, but you can still get it, but there was a point in time where you could not get it.
I have that in my save for later card.
Yeah. So his whole conclusion after studying the Dead Sea Scrolls and looking into this was that Christianity is a huge misunderstanding, and what it's really about is the consumption of psychedelic mushrooms and fertility rituals. So basically, back thousands of years ago, before any kind of religion, any kind of Christianity, we were savages. We wanted to survive. We wanted to grow food, reproduce, and live on, pass our genetics down. So if you look at the etymology, meaning where the word came from, of the word Jesus, it's an ancient, according to John Marco Allegro, it's an ancient Sumerian word, which is like one of the first civilizations, that translates to a mushroom covered in God's semen.
That's pretty crazy.
So if you think back then, people thought that the Sumerians or whatever civilization thought that when it rained, because the rain makes everything grow, it makes all the food grow, we can drink water, we can live, we can eat, we can survive. The rain was God's seed, if you will, right? And if you notice, especially this time of year, not so much now that we're getting into December, but like October, especially in this area, it rains, mushrooms sprout up almost instantly.
Dude, people's lawns are just... My backyard had a bunch of mushrooms the other day.
Literally a few weeks ago, I was riding my bike around this neighborhood. I've lived here for 17 years. I've never seen this. Excuse me. Amanita muscaria mushrooms were growing, which are a psychedelic mushroom, and they're actually connected to the whole story of Santa Claus. Santa Claus and his elves and that whole thing of Christmas all comes... Again, you can look these videos up on YouTube. Please, I implore you to suspend your disbelief and just watch it because it'll blow your fucking minds. Santa Claus comes from mushrooms too. And I'll show you the video later.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that.
It's literally insane.
Yeah, we'll definitely watch that.
So basically, it rains and mushrooms sprout up almost instantly. So if it rains, which is the seed of God, the rain makes everything grow, and then these mushrooms come up that are the son of God because it came from his seed, and then you eat these mushrooms, and I don't know about you guys, but when you eat a good amount of psychedelic mushrooms, I would argue that you are communicating with God. That is a religious experience. That's how I would describe it. Back then, if you don't know what God was, they didn't know what psilocybin was. They were like, oh, this must be God to us, because you are completely connected with the source of everything.
Yeah, why would you, right, like me and you, right, we're just people living our lives in a tribe, and we find these mushrooms, right, or we'll say plants, right, we eat them because we eat plants. That's what we do. We eat plants, we hunt animals, and now we have some crazy experience, right, and we feel like we're out of our bodies, whatever. Why, like, why would we...
You would absolutely do that again and
exactly.
use it to see...
And put it towards a religious undertone.
Yeah.
In a religious syntax.
Your
mushroom. That's crazy.
Your entire reality is just built by what your brain perceives, and if you alter that reality, that's... Like, to me, that's a religious experience. Is like
that's a really good way to put it.
Is like, yeah, it's
because
like,
a lot of people think religion. This ties exactly what I said before. A lot of people think religion is a big overarching thing for everybody. No. It's your personal. It's you. It's your person and your brain. Yeah,
I think that
it's a good way to put it.
I think it's really dangerous when people try to tell other people how to be spiritual or like how to. Like, I feel like a lot of the purpose of religion is, like, overlooked. Like, it's supposed to be, like introspective. But a lot of people basically just use it to push others around. It becomes a thing. It becomes, like, a weapon.
Yeah.
It's, like, for, control, power, money, status, oh, I'm talking down on you. Like, you need to submit to this thing that I believe.
Yeah.
Like, no. I think that's where it gets dangerous, is because it's more like about, again, like your personal reality. And like you said, like if you alter that reality, that's, very secular, scientifically speaking, like that's the closest thing you can have to like that kind of like religious experience.
Yeah.
Where it's just you and your brain and what your brain is capable of doing when, it is given certain chemicals.
Yeah.
So, like, your brain is kind of God, in a way. Like it's
to yourself.
I think it's I think it's a radio antenna. It's an antenna to receive God. Yeah. It's like a frequency thing that picks up on different.
Well, then again, I mean, I don't know how much further we want to dive into this rabbit hole, but then we would have to define God.
I think that God is consciousness in that everything that is alive, breathing, is so like connected. You, me, Dexter, the fucking trees outside, it's all God. It's all some kind of conscious, even crystals are argued to be conscious beings. I don't know about all that, but that's just what God is to me.
Yeah.
And I've that's why religion always rubbed me the wrong way. I was raised Jewish, I was bar mitzvahed and all that, but something weird about religion is like you have these rabbis or these priests or people who are like, no, this is what it means. Yeah. This is how you have to interpret it.
They tell you
no argument. They are the ones who read the word of God for you.
See, and I would even say like Azusa Pacific did a great job at saying, we had like chapel 3 times a week. And yeah, you know, you had to like listen to these sermons if you wanted to go to church, because a lot of people went to church on Sunday because that's what you do at a Christian university.
Yeah.
But they gave us the opportunity, and for people who were non-religious going into and still are non-religious like me, gave us the opportunity to read and interpret the text ourselves.
That's beautiful.
They gave us hours and hours of high quality, just cohorts, right, where we could spend our time debating and talking about things that were religious and non-religious, but all through text, and how we can personally identify with that and talk about it.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm glad
that's revolutionary. Like I'm
it is.
serious. I cannot talk more positive enough about Azusa Pacific University.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it's
Shout
pretty
out.
crazy. It really is.
That's good that they did that
really
for
is.
you. And this literally brings me back because, Dave, I don't know if you definitely remember this. It was probably about a year ago where we were in my apartment in Philly. And I was thinking about starting a podcast, and we were having a deep conversation about these very things. And I just threw a microphone on record. The audio is horrible, but we had an awesome conversation.
It was a nice
little
Yeti through the middle of the table.
One of the things we talked about was like we were talking about Christianity in particular and the use of psychedelics, but I talked about that book, The 72 Names of God, which basically says like the Bible is a cryptograph, and it's filled with a ton of like stories with hidden messages and shit like that. Because if you go back, here's another thing, like people read the Bible and they take it literally, which is crazy because you have to understand it's been translated dozens of times from ancient Aramaic to ancient Hebrew to Latin to German so it's like this story. And of course the people whoever wrote the Bible, when Rome started taking over, they wanted to hide these fantastical stories and parables from the Romans. So, of course, they're going to change things up. So, another example to bring it back to religion and psychedelics. Scholars in Jerusalem think that the Moses and the burning bush story, they think that the burning bush was actually the acacia tree, which is rich in DMT.
Yep.
And DMT is one of the most potent psychedelics there is. So, who's to say that it's just not just that story of Moses and the burning bush wasn't just a convoluted DMT trip, and they kind of tried to hide it in these different ways of talking because
it's
crazy.
It's unignorable. I don't know if that's a word. You can't ignore this stuff. I mean, like when we're talking about, I know you're very knowledgeable about this, Eric, obviously, and very passionate about it, and I appreciate that because you're definitely someone who's giving it a good perspective for me. Yeah. Someone who doesn't know many people who study it like that, and I definitely want to study it more. But it's just you can't ignore the amount of, like, who knows, right? Who knows the answers to anything? But you can't ignore all those similarities. It's crazy how similar and how logical you can explain by all these things just by talking about psychedelics.
And that doesn't
religion.
Yeah. A lot of people want to like ignore that too because they feel like it demystifies it, like it takes away like a lot of the like significance of it. But I think it's the opposite. I think that makes it like more real, and it's like wow, like you when you do start to like humanize or like to put these people in history, like these things happen, and like that you know started all those beliefs. You know, it makes it more believable. Yeah, you know, it makes it more worth your time. Yeah, I guess.
And, you know, there's probably a lot of people too that say these people didn't even know what DMT was or psilocybin was. Matter. Why would they be taking it? I would argue that more people were taking it back then without even knowing it.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
We used to be a mushroom and psychedelic based society, and right now we're an alcohol based society.
Because I would fully agree with that statement.
There's a ton of research on it, and you know, it's like the idea is we were a mushroom based society. It is, and I will return to that because alcohol is a tool used to suppress human consciousness, and I will come back to that. But the idea is we were in these small tribes using these plant medicines, using these psychedelics to evolve our consciousness and have these religious experiences, and we were totally in tune with the earth and nature. That's what pagan means. It means people who are connected with the earth and the cycles of the moon. So what happened was we started to migrate. We started to move around the earth. Honey is a great preservative, so they would preserve mushrooms in honey. After a while, it would lead to fermentation, which also then leads to alcohol. And then from that, we kind of shifted to an alcohol-based society.
They used to ferment cow's milk.
Interesting.
They used to. Shout out to Mark Clearwaters. He told me that one. They used to. He said humans have been fermenting things since they existed.
I mean, you leave something around for too long, it starts to produce out. You know, like if you leave your grains out in the rain, or you know they're just getting wet wherever you're storing them.
Yeah.
as soon as cultures became agrarian, shortly after that, probably within a few years or even shorter, they had alcohol.
Yeah.
Because they would still try and consume, these technically, I guess, spoiled crops. Yeah. And they'd be like, oh, wow, that makes you feel kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just keep doing it,
Yeah.
So as soon as humanity settled down,
yeah,
they had alcohol.
Yeah. Alcohol is a weird one, man. I understand that it's very helpful and useful in helping you in social environments and kind of break down social barriers and be able to bond with people in a different way. But, I've definitely, I don't really drink. It's very rare for me. And I'll tell you why, because it's a few things. But when I heard this, it really clicked. Alcohol, talking about etymology and where words come from. Alcohol comes from the Arabic word al-kul, which literally translates to body-eating spirit. Wine and spirit. It's all in plain sight.
Wow.
We call them spirits.
It's used to suppress your consciousness. Dude, hangovers are brain damage. That's what that is. Your brain is like damaged from that kind of shit.
We don't really know a lot about them, but it seems that it's basically short-term withdrawals.
Yes.
Almost immediately after you stop drinking,
yes,
your brain tells you, like, I need that, I want more.
Yeah.
And that's what a hangover is. That's why a lot of people will tell you if you drink more alcohol, the hangover goes away. The best cure to a hangover, whatever, drink more in the morning.
Yeah.
You're literally like that is a short-term withdrawal.
Yeah.
You're having withdrawal symptoms right after drinking.
It's freaky, man. And again, like, that's another reason why psychedelics are still illegal. We're in New Jersey.
Wait, hold on. Didn't they just legalize psilocybin in New Jersey?
They're on their way to decriminalizing it.
Decriminalizing, excuse me.
But that's a huge step forward, man. It's fucking awesome.
Hey, in Oregon,
it's totally legal. Dude, they're going crazy in Oregon.
There's absolutely no. Well, maybe they're holding off so long on this stuff. I mean, we could talk about the war on drugs, whatever, in America and how, like, what policy should do.
Yep.
But all those CIA files a lot too about like DMT and a lot of psychedelics. Maybe they've just been holding off and trying to do this for so long because they realize that giving this power to a lot of people is going to be it could give us the opportunity to have more information than the government wants us to have because they want to continue to control us.
Exactly. Thank you. That's why I think that they're still illegal, because the psychedelics help your consciousness evolve. They help you reach these new states of thinking, being, and acting into the world, figuring out who you are, realizing you don't need certain things.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you're in that vibration, it's very hard to control you and make you buy shit.
Yeah.
And what sucks is because this is the dilemma I think we're faced with, and we're gonna be continued faced with, is now a lot more people want more government to be able to help the most amount of people possible, right?
Sure.
What is it called? Helping the greatest good, right? Giving everyone the greatest good possible.
Sure.
And probably having more government involvement could help more people on the lower poverty line, right?
Okay.
That's a plausible statement. A lot of democratic socialists are pushing for that in America, right? But the problem is, it seems that people who always have a lot of money and a lot of power are always going to get their ways. Yeah. There's so many, you could call them secret societies, but like so many things where lots of rich people gather all the time and they can talk about what they want. They do what they want.
Yeah, it's called
I was just about to say, Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. Bohemian Grove. Many more things like that. Yeah. I was over at my girlfriend's house, Kaylee Moreland, love you. You're beautiful. I know you're watching. Shout out to my girlfriend. She's great. I was over her house watching yacht videos with her dad. Her dad and her mom love boats. They have a boat. They're big in the boat. They want to move to 40 Keys and live on a boat.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
That's a good goal.
Pretty cool. And we were looking at these super yachts, you know what I mean? I'm like, there's absolutely no way that these super yachts aren't the home of things like Bohemian Grove, but at a smaller scale. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And it stinks because the people who are super rich and powerful like that are going to continue to get what we want. They're going to continue to suppress things. Yeah. And even though the answer to poverty and giving everyone in the world the opportunity to live a healthy and long life full of education and nature, maybe that answer is more government. It's
more efficient government.
There you go. More efficient government. I honestly think the way humans live right now, it gives the opportunity to suppress things like releasing or decriminalizing or delegalizing psilocybin, DMT, things like psychedelics that are now coming up and are continuing to be suppressed by these or by people,
Right.
Of all these insane claims saying that, you know, all this religion connections, all of these connections with consciousness and being able to improve yourself, literally creating new brain cells in your brain, are being suppressed. I've been told my entire life, and I'm sure we've all been told our entire lives, when you lose brain cells, you can't grow new brain cells, you know, so don't hurt your head too much.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
You know, don't get concussions. You're going to lose your brain cells and be dumb.
Yep. No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
It's crazy.
World War III is a war on consciousness. That's what I've heard.
That's a big statement.
And I really subscribe to that, and I like that because The Matrix is as an example. Even Keanu Reeves will say The Matrix is a documentary, and the idea behind The Matrix is Neo wakes up to this illusionary world that's put in front of him, whether it be the Matrix system of working in a corporate 9-to-5 or being plugged into the cities that we live in, or whatever, these weird invisible matrices of conditioning. And there's a video on YouTube, look it up, and it's called The Matrix, A Guide to Free Your Mind. Because that's the whole point of who Morpheus represents, is like that figure who wants to free your mind and show you the truth of the actual world we live in. And the truth of the world we live in, it's very scary and it's very dark of all this crazy evil shit that's going on. But once you're able to kind of wake up to that and see it, and, you know, the idea is like open your third eye so you can see through the illusions of shit. And they're putting fluoride in our water. And this is a fact. Fluoride is a neurotoxin, and fluoride turns your pineal gland, which is your air quotes, your third eye in your brain.
Yeah. It's responsible for HGH, right?
It produces all kinds of hormones, including what we think DMT. And if you look at the eye of Horus, the Egyptian eye symbol, and you hold it over a brain, it's actually the pineal gland. The pineal gland in reptiles, some reptiles actually has a retina and a lens. So it's like literally a third eye inside their brain. And fluoride calcifies that. It turns it into a rock. So, of course, if your pineal gland is calcified and you're not able to kind of see the higher perspective towards things, it's easier to control you. It's easier to make you feel fear and afraid, and you have to go buy this because you're not good enough. And that's very scary. And that's the war on consciousness. And that's why there's GMOs in the food. And that's why psychedelics are kept illegal, because they don't want us to wake up to our own power and divinity, because you can't control us and make us buy shit.
A little bit.
That's my hippie rant for the day.
A little bit, like to tone that down a bit, but still talk about it. On the way here, we were talking about like food and diet.
Yeah.
And we were saying, I mean, when you think about it, like just
a lot of
food
our
and diet. Well, almost all of our problems nowadays, modern, the mental health crisis, I would argue you could just attribute to our food and the way we eat our food.
We talked about this. I talked about this last night.
And you go.
Really, really fast. On the topic of control, talk about control. I mean, soda's cheaper than water.
Yeah, seriously.
Like,
is that a fact?
I mean, you can get a 67-cent 2-liter at Walmart of like cola.
Yeah.
Think about how much it would be for that much water.
Yeah.
Like bottled water. You know?
It's like $2-3.
That's not right.
Like
man.
Talk about control. If we're gonna go along with, you know, saying that most of our problems can be solved through diet.
Yeah.
Well,
and
a lot
I
of
would
the problems
stand by
that
that.
keep you feeling like shit, you know, keep you complacent in society is you know, dietary, and it's attributed to poverty. And you know, it'll keep you impoverished if you just keep eating like shit and dying early.
And we could talk about
control.
We could talk about like the food pyramid. Who made the food pyramid? You know who made the food pyramid?
It's bullshit.
Some dude who was trying to sell more eggs.
Grains.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's just
more
farmer
carbs.
guys, right, who wanted to sell more stuff.
Yeah. Well,
you know, and even though a lot of people know that the food pyramid's kind of malarkey, right? It's kind of BS. People, if you ask an average person what your diet kind of consists of, I would argue that most of those people have a diet that looks scarily similar to the food pyramid.
Yes.
Same thing with the got milk. That was, you know, dairy farmers were government's like, okay, we got you, you know?
Milk makes your bones stronger. I mean, milk's not that bad. I haven't read anything bad about milk.
Dairy freaks me out.
But there's a problem.
It's inflammatory.
Depends.
And all adult mammals are lactose intolerant, or to some degree lactose intolerant. Because our bodies stop producing enough lactase to break down the lactose.
I think is it all, or is like 98%? 90. There are some people
I think
who,
it's like
most of us.
No, all adult mammals are to some degree lactose intolerant.
Some degree, okay.
Because you're like not supposed to be. Like,
I want to say something about diet, and I said this yesterday on a podcast, and if you didn't listen to that one, I'll say it again. I think your diet is way more than just the food you put into your mouth. It's the shit that you put into your brain. It's the music that you listen to. It's the shit you watch on TV. It's the books you read. It's the conversations you have, because all of those things will dictate, I love to use the term, flavor how you look at life.
Yeah,
I noticed, the last few weeks when the election was happening, I don't watch the news because I am fully aware that the news is something that has been created to just feed you,
to interrupt your thinking,
but also feed you fear and negativity.
Yeah.
And oh my God, we're so worried we have to be other.
to keep you in that constant state
definitely
of dread.
They definitely love Machiavelli.
That constant state of
They
dread.
love Machiavelli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's for sure.
I was noticing that during the election, that Tuesday and Wednesday, I was watching these live streams of people talking about the election, and I had the news on, and I was feeling so anxious, so frustrated, so short-tempered, and I'm like, it clicked. I was like, holy shit. So I'm watching the news and I'm sucking all this negativity up into my optic.
When I'm in class too, like, because I'm in a Red and Blue America class,
Okay.
which is pretty interesting. I think the professor does a good job. It's mainly about the history of politics,
Right.
and like why some things happen. It's not really like, it's not like what you would think it would be. It's pretty interesting. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
But obviously he talks about the election a bit, and he tries to stay as bipartisan as possible. But like there were just kids in there who were like, he's like, how you guys doing during the election? And there were just people who were like, I don't know, my whole life depends on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
No, it does.
Absolutely
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, man.
And it's so sickening. It's so sickening. And then people, I wrote this in a paper too that I had to write for that class. I said, I would not be surprised if I did a study that, and I would to look at my friends, and I have a decent amount of followers on Instagram. A lot of them I know. Most of them I know. I wouldn't be surprised if that a correlation I find is that the people who post more on social media, I think there's a couple people we could just name off the top of our head. I'm obviously not going to name them. But there are people who post a lot, political, regardless of the side,
Yeah.
post a lot on their story, post a lot of posts, post a lot of things on social media. And I would argue that those people are people who are more likely to fall for false information, be more anxious, be more hateful, be more less understanding. I would fully get behind that, because there are people, and a lot of people asked me, I'm not kidding, so many people, when everyone was doing the Blackout Tuesdays and all these things, or whatever, a lot of people, I didn't contribute in anything on social media. I barely even use social media anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of people DM'd me and asked me why I'm not posting anything. I'm not reposting it. A lot of people, 5, 6, 7 people, and I told them all the same thing. I'm like, I know what I need to do in what I can do in my power right now to just try and help people around me, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about posting things on social media
Good for you, bro.
and reading more things about it.
See, a lot of people,
it's not going to help you.
they make that their reality, is like, if it, like what they're, because that's what they spend most of their day doing, is scrolling through their phone. And it's like they think that, I mean, they might not even realize they're doing it, but like performative, not even activism only, but I mean just performative, performative, participation. It's like
Signal calling.
and virtue signaling,
Signal
It's
calling,
like-
virtue signaling.
it's like,
Isn't that the same thing, signal calling?
I say virtue
sig-
signaling.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like, like not to say like both sides, because there's more than two sides. Like I'm saying, all around.
No.
Yeah.
There's two sides. If you look at the media, there's two sides.
Well, you know what I mean. Like
But I'm just being
yeah,
That's what the
devil
media
advocate.
wants you to believe.
Exactly.
Like-
Exactly.
like
It's your right or wrong,
yeah.
and that's it.
But
Yeah.
There's
people
no humanity.
people think that the only way they can contribute is by using their platform, which
Exactly.
basically means putting
Exactly.
up some BS
Silence
post that
is
someone's just going to
violence.
scroll right. Yeah, silence is violence.
Yeah.
I agree with that, actually.
I do.
I agree with that.
Social media silence is not violence.
Elie Wiesel, he
That's
said
the difference.
he talked about apathy as being, the greatest evil.
Yeah.
And it's
Elie
like,
Wiesel being a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah. And like, I feel like a lot of really important messages get twisted with the best intention, but then they get kind of like it just gets like, I don't want to say worn out, but they kind of lose their like meaning. Like silence is violence. Like I feel like that's super important, but like then you get people DMing you on Instagram saying, "Why are you silent?" Like that's that's an act of violence. Like no, like I know you, and
Yeah.
like I know I know what you do and what you're capable of helping people, you know, and like, and making the right, you know, choices and decisions, whatever, like any other person.
Yeah.
You know, like just because you're not posting on Instagram doesn't mean you don't care about human rights.
Yeah.
You know?
Sorry about that. Our camera died. We're going hard. All right, guys. I think I really like all the points that you made. I think if we can wrap it up and switch it back to a positive note, make sure if you're listening or watching, make sure you're questioning your reality. Make sure you're doing your own research and figuring out things on your own. Don't let anybody tell you what is right or wrong, especially the media nowadays. They want to tell you. Duncan Trussell had a great quote. He said, some phoneless fool is probably sitting next to a waterfall right now, completely unaware of how upset and frustrated he's supposed to be. And the whole idea with that quote is like, if you watch the news, they try to tell you how you need to act and feel and be. And I felt that watching the news during the election. I felt that energy. I did not like the way it was flavoring my life. And with that, it's important to just, again, free your mind, if you will, and explore the nature of consciousness and watch movies like The Matrix and video breakdowns on YouTube and watch things like Sacred Geometry and understand that, like, you don't have to let anybody tell you how you have to act or feel, because those people who do get upset on social media or they do watch the news all the time, they're living in these vibrations of fear and survival. And therefore, when you live in those states, it's much easier to control you.
And I would say, above all, like, yes, do all that, but you have to apply that to your life.
Yes.
Right? Like, yeah, we can watch YouTube all day and stuff like that and do all the things you're doing.
Yeah.
But, like, if we're making a clothing company and we want to make a clothing company that's efficient and that follows things like that, you need to think about all those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you need to apply them. Like we were saying, you have to create value for people in a way you can create. And we need to continue trying to push for simulating, you know, nature.
Yeah.
And regardless of clothing, everything that you do
Just
business wise should now in 2020 start to revolve around everything that Eric just said, because that's the future. I have no doubt about it. That's the future. And that's why it's becoming more prevalent.
Humanity plus is the term. Whatever you do it with the humanity plus intention. It's going to benefit me and the entire world around me in a positive way.
Yeah, like just trying to think about like your impact and like everything other than yourself and what you're doing like right now, like, you know, like the way, like we were saying, like making waves, like what impact is that going to have? Like besides, you know, the immediate benefits, whatever, you know, like, oh, maybe you're getting a little extra money in your pocket right now, but like, you know, that's not going to be there in the future.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't get people down with whatever you're doing, you know, if you're, you know, you just gotta think about that impact.
Yeah. So if you're listening, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you being here as always. This has been actually, I don't know what episode this is because there's a
Thanks
few
for
in
having
between.
us.
Yeah,
Of course,
thanks.
you guys. Thank you
Thanks.
for being here. This is a great conversation. I know people are going to get a lot of value. This is the first of many.
Hope
And if
so.
you are listening, in closing, just make sure that you don't let the media or news or society tell you how to act, think, feel, or be in the world. Make sure you're doing your own research, questioning your reality, doing what makes you happy, following your heart, and you're always moving forward. Bye, everybody.